Hi, I'm Mimi Gonzalez, and you're watching Out at the Center. Spring is fast approaching, and that means get ready for this year's AIDS Walk. Please sign up to walk with the Center's team and then join us on May 17th in Central Park. If you can't be there, please donate at the link to support the important HIV/AIDS services provided by the Center. On April 17th, there will be a reunion to commemorate the 20th anniversary of the Gender Identity Project. Mark your calendar now and check the website for more information. See you there. Last month, busloads of activists, organized by Marriage Equality New York, Join the Impact, and other groups, headed to Albany to ask our New York State senators and assembly members if they will support marriage equality for same-sex couples in the Empire State. This is what happened when they visited Senator George Honorato, who represents the 12th District in Queens.
We're in the state capital, Albany, about to meet with our state senators and governor. My goal is to impress upon them the need and power and importance of equal civil rights through marriage equality for all.
We're going to see Senator Honorato, which is District 12, which is Astoria, Long Island City area. Any place else?
I think Woodside and Sunnyside.
And parts of Woodside and Sunnyside. He's a supporter of gay issues, but he's not a supporter of gay marriage, so we're going to change his mind today. We're here today as constituents of your district.
Hi, gang.
Thank you very much for seeing us today. We're here today as constituents of your district, of one of the most diverse districts in the United States, and we need you to support marriage equality. We pay equal taxes and we want equal rights. That's really basically our main reason for this visit. And as long as the law says that we're unequal, we're unequal.
What are some of the obstacles that would prevent you from supporting marriage equality?
I don't really know yet.
Okay.
Well, I know that some of your goals for 2000...
I had some religious reasons for it. I don't believe in discrimination
Right.
of any kind. I should have every right that everybody in the world has. I still have to grow up with the fact of marriage between a man and a woman.
Yeah.
And maybe an old-fashioned individual.
Your district's pretty gay. There's a lot of gay people in your district, to be honest.
Yes, I am. And like I say, I'll take a good look at it. I'll revisit it.
Do you feel that you are in a position that you could be persuaded either way, in one direction or another?
Maybe. I'm not positive that it can be switched as of this time.
The thing that I always come down to is that the most important thing in my life is actually that I really want to have a family and I want to be married. And we've been best friends for years, and then we got into a relationship, and to look at her and to think that someday we might be able to be married is the greatest thing. That's the day that I'm looking forward to. And if that, don't cry, if that, like, the fear that might not happen is just, it's terrifying to me.
You know, this has been a great year of change with the elections, everything, and I can honestly stand here and say I can believe, maybe not in 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, but 10 years, like you're asking, that this will be in the past.
Former Center Executive Director Richard Burns sat down with former Center Board member Diana Leo to talk about the time when he first started working at the Center 22 years ago at the height of the AIDS crisis.
You mentioned that you were one of the few openly gay students at Hamilton. What enabled you so early on to be so open and so, I'm assuming, comfortable?
Well, it wasn't always comfortable. I remember I had known that I was queer since my earliest memories. You know, I was a little kid and knew I was attracted to men, and I was struggling my sophomore year with coming out, and there were no openly gay men. And then one day in the dining hall, a simple white sign went up on the stairs to the dining hall, and it just said Sappho, S-A-P-P-H-O, 7 p.m., and it had a hall and room name. And I thought, that's either a poetry group or that's a new queer student group. And so very trepidatiously after dinner, I went and walked in, and there were, maybe a dozen lesbians and a couple of guys, but it was very underground. And then, but at that point, I sang in the choir and had a great group of friends. And so by the time I was organizing what came to be the Hamilton-Kirkland Gay and Lesbian Alliance, I felt like, well, what could I do?
How is your relationship? I mean, I know from a board point of view how your relationship was with the board, but I think you developed a very close relationship with Irving Kuperberg,
Sure.
who was the board chair at the time, or president. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Irving was the president of the board when I came on board in '86, and the board met every week at that point, every Monday night.
Do you remember where the board met?
Well, at one time it met in the main office.
Right.
And
maybe it was before your time. We used to meet in the boys' locker room.
Oh, really? That is before my time.
Because it was one of the rooms that had heat and a light.
Yeah. No, that was before my time.
Let's go back a little bit to the earlier days in the 80s. That was the height of the AIDS catastrophe. I personally remember people would come on the board, they'd get sick, they'd die.
Yeah.
Can you talk about what that did to you as a leader and to the community?
For many people, there was the belief that an AIDS diagnosis was a death sentence. And we all were constantly going to funerals, spending time in hospitals with friends and lovers, and it was almost like opera, but it was real life. I mean, there was that heightened sense of emotion and sadness and of being a community at war. It was a terrible time, but at the same time, our community in many ways was at its best. Gay men and lesbians really operated separately and really came together, both around activism to demand a better response from government and from our culture around AIDS, and to care for one another and to build our community's institutions, the infrastructure of our movement and our social service sector. But the funerals and the loss made all of us sad, and certainly affected me, I think, because I got to know so many people in the community as the center's executive director. I was asked to speak at many memorial services, often by people while they were in their hospital bed. They would say, "Will you speak at my service?" And of course I would say yes. And some of these services were in churches, some of them were here at the center. And it did change the way that you went through life. And so for me today, even 22 years after I arrived, this building is a sacred space for me, and it's full of all those ghosts. I think it's one of the reasons that I have stayed so long as executive director.
I feel often that younger gay people don't really get what happened. Do you have that sense, or do you think it's, it's
I think that is true, but I also think that's just generational. I mean, it's hard for us, if we talk to Herb Cohn and Danny Cook about what it was like to meet each other at a dinner party in 1961, and how, that's 8 years before the Stonewall riots, and what life was like, and how underground it was for gay people. I think it's hard for us to imagine that, and so it makes sense that a 25-year-old gay man today would find it hard to understand what it was like to be an adult and a sexually active gay man or lesbian when AIDS happened and when it was called GRID.
Do you ever sometimes feel like, I'm sick of this whole thing, I'm just, leave me alone, I want to go live on a desert island?
Well, everybody has days like that, but I think one of the great blessings of being at the center is that we're all fed by the fact that we often get the best of people, like the best part of people when they come to the center to give back, whether it's volunteers or board members, people who have busy work lives and lives out there. But when they come to the center, they're here because they want to give back to their community. And that is a moment when someone is at their best.
Do you have like one thing that you look back on and feel like this was my darkest hour or my biggest challenge?
Well, I think the darkest hours would have had to have been when so many people were dying.
Yeah.
You know, we suffered so much, lost so many friends
Yes.
and people we really cared about and colleagues, and so that would have to be the darkest
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
Certainly the challenges of creating and building a grassroots queer nonprofit are endless and are often financial. During every economic cycle and downturn, many of your key supporters, they lose their jobs and can't contribute. And so we've cut back here in the end of 2008 as the economy went into a tailspin. We cut our budget by at least 10%, and there may be more cutbacks. Indeed, and that's what we have to do as stewards of this trust.
Talk about where you're going now. What's the next challenge?
Well, I'm very excited that I'm joining the Arcus Foundation as their Chief Operating Officer in March of 2009. And I think of Arcus as another kind of progressive, queer social justice, environmental engine. And so it all makes sense, this path for me.
That's fabulous.
Author Martin Duberman sat down to speak with Sarah Schulman on the publication of Radical Acts, a collection of 4 of his politically charged plays. Here is some of their conversation.
Well, this is just an incredible honor, and we're just so very grateful to you, Marty. And it's so wonderful to have this opportunity. So we're here to celebrate his new book, which is published by the New Press, Radical Acts. So how do we get to your first play, which is in this book, In White America, which is 1963, right? How did you get from being a wannabe actor to actually getting a play produced?
Let's do the story of being black in white America. And nobody liked it.
What a surprise.
Yeah, what a surprise.
Right.
First I had to get on a soapbox with my agent. She reluctantly agreed, and then with the producer, also very reluctant. And I put it together in 7 weeks, and it opened 7 weeks after that.
But what's interesting is that you continue to work with radical subject matter for your whole life as a playwright, and particularly with revolutionary individuals. That seems to be, your main focus. Right. So the next play in the anthology is about Emma Goldman. Well, the feminism is really articulated in that play, and equally front in the play is her commitment to sexual liberation. And I was wondering if that was code for you, or that was a way to express your feelings about your gay identity, if that's why you were attracted to that part of Emma.
The very first version of that play, and there have been dozens, was in the early 70s. Just as I was emerging from trying to get cured in psychoanalysis, and I instantly moved from the therapist's office into a GLF meeting. My political awareness may well have been what first attracted me to Emma.
Well, I want to move on to your play about Newton Arvin. He was Truman Capote's boyfriend at one point, friends with Carson McCullers, and a professor at Smith, and he got caught getting physique magazines in the mail and was forced to resign from Smith College. And Marty's play, which is called Posing Naked, is about Newton Arvin. At this point, you've been in the Academy a long time, and you chose to write a play about a gay academic who, because of the hypocrisy of the Academy, is driven insane and hospitalized and loses his career. Were you having struggles in the Academy at that time that drew you to that subject matter?
My struggle initially was not around the issue of homosexuality. It was about the issue we talked about earlier, wanting to do my courses in an experimental way. So I decided I was going to resign from Princeton. I had tenure. But I also decided I wasn't going out without a bang.
So your final play, Visions of Kerouac, which is a takeoff on Visions of Cody, which is my favorite Kerouac novel. And of course there's a very homo subtext to the whole Kerouac scene, even though Ginsberg was the only out gay man. And of course there was a homosexual panic murder by Lucien Carr in that whole community. But they have an endless fascination for gay men. It's kind of the rough trade, Marlon Brando thing, and the hypermasculinity of Jack Kerouac. And what was it like to write a play about writers? So you have to write the words of that the writers speak. That's a tough assignment.
Well, what I did was, I say all this in the introduction because I don't want people to think that every line in that play comes from Duberman. I got permission from that same Sterling Law Agency, who then represented, as you said, Kerouac. I got permission to a limited number of quotations from every one of his books. The combined words of Kerouac and me, because often, I added stuff. So a line from him would be mixed with a line from me.
I want to be sure you have time to buy Marty's book, and he'll sign it for you. And thank you, Marty.
At the time of her mid-career survey at the Guggenheim last year, American photographer Katherine Opie visited the center to talk about her work. She told us it was her first time doing a presentation in an LGBT space. It was a fascinating evening, and here are some highlights.
I'd like to welcome you all to the second Tuesday lecture series, which is the oldest cultural event here at the center. Tonight, we have Katherine Opie.
So is that a little baby dyke or what? So this is my first self-portrait in 1970 in Sandusky, Ohio. As you can tell, I, pretty much knew my identity from the get-go and then just flew with it for the rest of my life. And I decided that it was really important to go ahead and document my own community and begin to look at my own identity in relationship to creating a visual history. When I go around the country and I lecture to mainly non-queer audiences, I pause on this image and I just look out of the audience and I say, this is a lesbian washer and dryer. Because that's kind of the whole point. It's like any washer and dryer is a washer and dryer. Like, come on, just again, we're here, we're queer, get used to it, get over it. But in planning the show at the Guggenheim, I didn't put the hardest of the images in here. Right now in the alcove in the museum are these four portraits. It starts with Dyke, and that's my friend Stake, who tattooed Dyke on the back of her neck, and it was in 1992 that I did this. Then after Dyke, I did Dyke with a fabric background, once again trying to bring in more of an art historical context in relationship to how we begin to decipher these images. I did the next one, which is self-portrait cutting. And self-portrait cutting I did after my only, at that point, domestic relationship of 2 years broke up, and my heart was like literally broken because I thought like this was the one that I get to have a family with. And I doodled this on a pad for about a year, and then I asked an artist friend, not somebody who I knew from my SM community, but a fellow artist in Los Angeles whose work I love, Judy Bamber, to do the cutting on my back. It was really important for me to think about, like, what do we decipher images as? What do children draw? What does my own 6-year-old now, at this point, he actually draws this in first grade. And that's exactly what the point of this piece was, is what kind of history are we in, and I wanted to, again, wear my identity on my body. Then 10 years later, in 2004, I make this self-portrait, which is self-portrait nursing with my son, Oliver. It was really important for me to make this piece, for multiple reasons. I'm not a young Madonna and child. I'm a 40-year-old woman, with a double chin and wrinkles, nursing my child. Okay, now we go on to what I'm doing now. I call them football landscapes. It's also an incredible moment to be photographing these young men because actually many of them will join the military and head off to war. And what this means at that time and what the construction of masculinity is in relationship to our culture, and to kind of play witness to this and try to make landscapes has been really interesting for me to kind of grapple with and begin to look at. And I can't completely fully articulate it yet because it's not done yet. So I want to see what happens when I finish it. All my work is about community. So not to be part of community, then I just would feel like that would be a weird thing to do. So yeah, all of it feeds me in many, many ways in my life. For those queer youth who come into my classroom and the fact that I'm there for them, I mean, that is like the coolest thing in the world. I'm gay and I don't know how to tell my parents. Like that alone is stuff that I would never get if I was just an artist alone in my own studio.
The center is a place where people with all kinds of interests meet and gather. Earlier this year, for the first time ever, there was a social mixer for people and their pets.
This is actually the first time in the center that a pet care a pet party has taken place. And yet pets have always been so important to our community. And I really think we should go on and do this and do more of this and have pet classes and socials with pets and really make something of this.
We adopted him from North Shore, and they said he was from Tennessee. He was a rescue dog. When we got him, he was only like 5 pounds. When we got him, and now he's a healthy dog, and he's good, and he's keeps me company, keeps us company. He's a lovely dog.
Let's meet these two. This is a King Charles Spaniel.
A Cavalier King Charles Spaniel.
A Cavalier. And this is a Border Collie?
That's right. Mm-hmm.
Now these two live together?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
They look like they get along really well.
Oh, they do. Mm-hmm.
Can we bring any pet we want to this mixer?
Well, don't bring vicious ones.
No, but I mean, could someone bring a cat that likes dogs? Could someone bring a bunny or a rat or a...
Dog play is very specific. It would not be a place for cats.
I would love to be able to take him into the community and give back to the community and bring him to be able to help other people, as a service dog, and do some therapy with him. That would be great.
Each Thursday for the next at least 6 Thursdays and even beyond. And we'll see where it develops, and hopefully we'll get some other kind of play groups and therapy dog training groups and obedience groups and other kinds of parenting skill groups with dogs, and we can have a ball.
We come to the center to enjoy the community, and now this is part of our community that we can bring with us. So it's our whole family is here together at the center, and I think that's like something that's really important to us.
For a lot of us, kicking the smoking habit is not easy and can mean quitting more than once. That is the case for Rick Relapse in this next video. If you relapse, don't be too hard on yourself, but do think about coming to the center, where our LGBT smoke-free program might help you kick the habit once and for all.
This is the 5th time I quit smoking and started again. I was doing so well, too. I mean, I went 3 whole months without a cigarette this last time. And then there was that weekend that I had to finish the merge report, help my sister move out of her apartment, and my boyfriend insisted that we drive up to the country for Sunday brunch with his new client. Listen, I just need a way to cope. I'm good at what I do. I'm successful. What I set my mind to do, I make happen. I just have this one little bad habit that I can't seem to shake for good.
And that's all for this edition of Out at the Center. As the credits roll, we will talk with some members of the Dance 208 committee. It's hard to believe that 25 years ago, the Saint, Paradise Garage, and Studio 54 were in existence when the Center Dance, also known as Dance 208, was started up. Many parties in the gay community have come and gone, but the Center Dance, now reborn Dance 208, has survived and thrived. On that note, I'm Mimi Gonzalez. Just keep on dancing.
Hi, I'm Joe Fiore, and I am manager and chair of the dance committee at the center. We are celebrating our 25th anniversary tonight.
We started, I know our first dance was a Halloween dance. Our budget was $100 for liquor and $25 for everything else. So it was a lot of work, but it was a lot of fun. We had a good time. I met a lot of good friends, a lot of good people.
Irving Cooperberg, who was our president at the time, said, and you have to remember we're in the middle of the AIDS crisis, when there's no cure, there's no medication, people are getting sick and dying, he said, we have to have fun. We have to be able to bring people together to have a good time, and we have to do the work we have to do, but we need a place where people can come and enjoy themselves and then feel whole and healed. And so that came right out of the very first volunteer night.
It was a group of volunteers who came together, also a very diverse group of volunteers who came together and struggled to get audiences, and they're doing a great job now because the audiences are really coming.
Particularly as time went on, we got through the dances a sense of a community event that was different from the bar scene, and which was part of the goal. It's like bars were risky when we first started, they need to be safer, and so this was a place to come and do that. We have so many people who have been doing this for so long, plus the new people who are coming in. This is like we have generations now.
There's a lot of interesting old timers that come here. Many people have come up to me over these last 5-6 years to say that they remembered me from many years gone back. So it's also a nice way to talk to people and meet with people and encourage them to come out and be part of something that's really worth being a part of.
What did you get out of volunteering at the center and at the center dances?
You know, it's really not volunteering. The center gave me so much. The center gave me family, community, and from here, it really opened the door to so many different things for me.
Satisfaction knowing that a whole lot of people that come here every year are leaving every dance happy and always wanted to stay longer. It's a lot of fun.
The name says it's the center, and which means the center of things. It's just great to have such a great crowd. The huge crowds at the Fur Ball.
And it proves that an original idea from some volunteers really worked.